The movie commences with Flight Vista Pacific 7500 experiencing sudden turbulence on its journey from Los Angeles to Tokyo. Amidst the chaos of panicked passengers, we're transported back in time by 4 hours. Flight attendants Laura and Susie make preparations for the impending flight and extend greetings to passengers, such as vacationers Brad and Pia, a thief named Jake, businessman Lance Morrell clutching a peculiar box, newlyweds Rick and Liz, and a goth girl Jacinta. As passengers settle into their seats, the secretive businessman discreetly stows his box underneath. Laura finds herself distracted by pilot Pete Haining, with whom she shares a clandestine relationship, leading to discussions of their upcoming weekend getaway in Tokyo. Laura also alerts Pete about crucial information regarding a missed aircraft check relayed by the control center, but Pete brushes off the significance. In another part of the plane, Brad and Pia, seated in first class, opt not to disclose their recent breakup to their vacation companions, aiming to preserve the jovial atmosphere for their eagerly anticipated 3-week trip. Meanwhile, honeymooners Liz and Rick hope for privacy during the flight, only to find Jacinta occupying the adjacent seat just before takeoff. Liz requests Jacinta to relocate, but she declines. Meanwhile, Rick carefully examines Jacinta's tattoos on her legs through the torn jeans, which his wife does not approve of.
What? Really?
Shortly after, the pilots announce the impending departure, and the flight attendants carry out a quick safety briefing, followed by a thorough check of all passengers. Laura notices Lance's box and requests him to stow it in the overhead compartment, to which he reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, the thief Jake, brandishing a tablet, initiates a conversation with a young woman named Raquel, arguing that the mandate to power down all electronic devices on board is essentially pointless. Uninterested in engaging with a stranger, Raquel seizes his still active tablet and powers it down. Upon discovering numerous phones in his bag, Raquel confronts Jake, who confesses that he receives $100 for each. After some time post-takeoff, the flight attendants permit passengers to unfasten their seat belts and move freely within the cabin. As everyone attends to their tasks, Laura and Susie engage in conversation about the most intriguing passengers. Suddenly, turbulence rattles the plane, but within minutes, the situation stabilizes, and passengers gradually recover from their fright. However, Lance struggles with a panic attack, gasping for breath. The flight attendants endeavor to assist him and inquire among the passengers if there is a doctor or medical professional present. Brad steps forward to offer aid initially, and then he is joined by Rick, who serves as an emergency medical technician. Lance's condition worsens. He begins convulsing and then stops breathing in front of the shocked passengers. Brad and Rick carry Lance to the crew compartment and try to revive him, performing CPR and artificial respiration, yet to no avail. The pilot communicates Lance's dire condition to the control center, asserting that an emergency landing isn't warranted. Subsequently, the crew relocates all first-class passengers to economy to accommodate Lance's body. Laura also announces a compensation plan, offering each passenger 2 vouchers for a complimentary first-class trip to any destination worldwide. Upon Rick's return to his seat, Liz expresses discomfort at the thought of kissing him, given his recent CPR efforts on a potentially infectious individual. Suddenly, Jacinta believes she observes movement from Lance's body and mentions it to the bickering newlyweds. Dismissing her with irritation, Liz begins fretting about the potential onset of an unpleasant odor emanating from the body.
Death is a part of life. A part of your life, maybe, but not a part of mine.
As the crew relocates Lance to first class, Jacinta is inexplicably drawn to his cooling body, gently touching it, while Jake keenly observes the gold watch adorning Lance's wrist. After a while, Liz heads to the restroom, prompting Rick to engage in conversation with the intrigued Jacinta, who muses about the fragility of life. Agreeing with her sentiment, Rick is eager to continue their discussion, but Liz returns before he can delve deeper. Meanwhile, Raquel also heads to the restroom, intending to take a pregnancy test. As Laura attends to serving drinks, she suddenly notices Lance's dislodged tooth on his seat, recalling his earlier convulsions. Shocked, she stumbles backward, inadvertently dropping the tray of drinks. Abruptly, plastic water bottles begin to collapse, indicating a decrease in cabin pressure, while Brad's nails start to discolor. Sensing trouble, Laura urgently instructs everyone to fasten their seat belts. Suddenly, the plane begins a rapid, uncontrollable descent. Passengers who haven't secured their seat belts are tossed around the cabin, triggering panic. Soon, a warning signal alerts passengers about cabin depressurization, prompting everyone to swiftly don oxygen masks. It becomes apparent that Pia's mask is faulty, prompting Brad to offer her his, before he sets off to search for another one, assisting a mother and daughter from first class with theirs. Meanwhile, Raquel, trapped in the restroom, struggles to open the door but loses consciousness before reaching the mask. Brad notices Pia unconscious and promptly returns to aid her. Fortunately, a few breaths through the oxygen mask revive her. After a brief interval, Captain Pete updates the passengers, explaining that turbulence damaged a valve, causing the depressurization. However, they've isolated the affected compartment and descended to a lower altitude, restoring normal pressure, allowing everyone to remove their masks. Laura checks on the passengers and discovers Raquel unconscious in the restroom. Concerned, she fits an oxygen mask on her, and the girl begins to recover. As passengers recover from the ordeal, Liz continues browsing their wedding photos with Rick. Suddenly, she notices a chilling reflection on the laptop screen. She immediately looks around but doesn't see anyone. Meanwhile, Jake stealthily ventures into first class to steal Lance's watches. After taking them off along with pieces of skin, he decides to film a selfie video with the body, but is startled when Lance's head moves. Recoiling in horror, Jake rips fabric from Lance, uncovering something terrifying. In the cockpit, Captain Pete attempts to establish communication with the control center in Tokyo, but encounters only eerie interference on the other end. To distract himself during the tense flight, Brad decides to watch a movie. However, he soon finds himself fixated on Jacinta's reflections on the transient nature of life. As her words echo in his mind, the movie's imagery distorts, and he is startled to see Lance's face appear on the screen. The unsettling interference eventually dissipates, leading Brad to dismiss it as a mere hallucination. After some time, Laura notices peculiar green lights outside the plane's window. However, her attention is diverted by Susie's revelation that Jake has vanished from his seat. Laura queries Raquel about Jake's whereabouts, to which she responds that he had ventured to first class. Proceeding cautiously through the dimly lit cabin, the flight attendants soon discover the absence of both Jake and Lance's body. Disturbed, they retreat to economy class and inform Captain Pete of the missing body, speculating that Jake may have prankishly hidden it. Pete orders a systematic search of the plane, row by row, to locate the body. Laura also inquires if Pete observed a fighter jet outside the window, but he denies noticing anything of the sort. Meanwhile, the agitated Raquel attempts another pregnancy test, relieved to find it displays a negative result. However, their respite is short-lived as white smoke suddenly fills the cabin. In the cabin, the flight attendants diligently follow Captain Pete's directives, combing through the aircraft in search of Lance's missing body. Upon hearing about the disappearance, Brad and Liz, awaiting the conclusion of the search, confide in each other about their eerie hallucinations. They come to a chilling realization that two individuals couldn't share the same hallucination, prompting them to consider the possibility that these unsettling visions might be real. Brad and Pia, joined by Rick and Liz, resolve to delve deeper into the enigmatic passenger's belongings. Within Lance's bag, they uncover a laptop, documents, and peculiar vials containing hair strands, each labeled with female names. Intrigued by their findings, Jacinta reveals a wooden box to the group before returning to her seat, where she inexplicably finds herself tugged by an unseen force beneath her blanket. Suddenly, the flight attendants intervene as the team attempts to open the box, asserting that they have no authority to delve into passengers' belongings. Rick argues, suggesting that the strange occurrences on board began after Lance's demise, compelling them to seek answers. He proposes inspecting Lance's luggage in the cargo hold, but Laura initially refuses, insisting they return to their seats. However, upon reconsideration prompted by Lance's belongings, Laura changes her mind. Leaving Susie upstairs, she ventures into the cargo hold, only to be ensnared by sinister hands into the unknown depths. Meanwhile, the team, accompanied by Jacinta, recommence their investigation, finally succeeding in unlocking the mysterious box. In it, they see a creepy doll with a moving head. Jacinta, intrigued by the doll, enlightens the others that it's a shinigami, a death doll originating from Japanese folklore. Upon inspecting the accompanying documents, the others grasp that Lance intended to deliver it to a buyer in Tokyo. Continuing, Jacinta proceeds to acquaint the bewildered passengers with mythology, elucidating that one who abruptly departs life must sever all ties to existence to attain release, whereby the shinigami escorts their soul to the afterlife. However, Lance appears to be grasping onto life tenaciously, refusing to relinquish his soul. Meanwhile, Captain Pete endeavors to re-establish contact with Tokyo, encountering distorted sounds once more. Suddenly, he senses someone's presence behind him, and in horror, he turns around. At the baggage compartment entrance, Susie awaits Laura and suddenly notices mysterious white smoke emanating from the hatch. The flight attendant miraculously manages to evade the smoke by seeking refuge in the first-class cabin. Upon hearing screams, Brad, Pia, Rick, Liz, and Jacinta rush to investigate. However, Susie is sucked into the overhead compartment as she approaches them. Except for Jacinta, who remains calm, everyone else panics and rushes downstairs to the cockpit, only to discover the tragic fate of Captain Pete and the second pilot. Jacinta, remaining in first class, finds herself surrounded by white smoke, and hears her own words about the fleeting nature of life before encountering an unknown figure behind. Returning to economy class, the team discovers Raquel's lifeless body in the restroom. Shocked by these inexplicable events, they return to their seats only to find their own lifeless bodies. At that moment, the cabin's television reveals that Flight Vista Pacific 7500 encountered severe turbulence, lost contact, and suffered from a malfunctioning valve leading to depressurization due to defective oxygen masks. Additionally, Laura's earlier sighting of lights belonged to a reconnaissance fighter jet, which found no signs of life aboard. The plane has been on autopilot for 5 hours, with no hope of passenger survival. Realizing they are merely souls being guided to the afterlife by the Shinigami doll, Brad and Pia, despite their past differences, decide to reunite before the plane crashes into the Pacific Ocean. In the final scene, Liz, shaken, realizes the plane is empty and it's bright outside. She hears a suspicious noise from the trash bin, investigates, and is horrified when a terrifying pale hand emerges, prompting her to scream in terror. What do you think happened to Liz, and why didn't her soul go to the afterlife with the others? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.